Just imagine for a second if the creators of some of the other iconic villains in movie and TV history did this. Do you think the Joker would slap on some knee pads and beg for a half pint of Batman's throat gravy? Can you see Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine trying to hoover down Luke's tube steak? The Boys finally finished its steady plummet from grace, and with that pathetic series finale we just got, The Boys' failure is complete. A show that was once a promising dark satire of the superhero genre managed to pull off a Game of Thrones level collapse, culminating in a laughably weak finale that didn't even come close to living up to the impossible hype the series built up for its final showdown. The final 2 episodes of The Boys were the lowest rated episodes of the entire series, by far, which is a fitting end to a show that got progressively worse every single season, with season 1 soaring with a 90% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and with the final season left lying face down in the gutter with a 52%. Needless to say, The Boys finale, and this final season as a whole, completely shit the bed. The writing was on the wall, if you cared to see it. The scale of the long-awaited apocalyptic last fight between Butcher and Homelander was never going to match what they spent so long foreshadowing. The vaunted final season was derailed when they wasted 3 episodes on a MacGuffin fetch quest that turned into a nothing burger. The creators' obsession with infusing their contemporary politics into the show saw the complete destruction of The Boys' best portrayed character. The characters' power levels became wildly inconsistent in a story that's entirely built on characters' relative power levels. And, let's be real, a show run by creators who always fall back on the gross out factor and making their characters endlessly talk about sucking dick was always going to see the bag of tricks run dry. But we'll talk about all those problems and a litany of the other issues that infected The Boys after we get in a quick recap of the season, and that pathetic finale that brought the whole thing crumbling down. 4 seasons of hype sent us hurtling toward an epic, explosive final season where Butcher, The Boys, and Starlight would finally take out Homelander. For a shining example of this kind of long-running hype, look no further than the damning footage from Flight 37 the show was teasing would help bring down Homelander since Season 1. Here and there, for 4 seasons, the threat of this footage surfacing hung over Homelander's head like the sword of Damocles. And what happened in Season 5 when the footage was finally aired for the world to see? It was hand-waved away as AI, over and done with in 3 minutes. With that attempt landing with all the impact of a whoopee cushion, Butcher and the Boys turned back toward developing and unleashing a virus that's designed to genocide all soups. But when a test run of the virus shows that original soups like Soulja Boy are immune thanks to their different genetic makeup courtesy of V1, the original soup juice, the race to find the last of the V1 in the world is on. Homelander, now believing that he's destined to ascend to godhood, wants the V1, as it will essentially make him immortal. And the Boys are left with only one option: destroy the V1 to prevent that. And 3 entire episodes are spent on this subplot. They find one last dose of V1 in the hands of Bombsight, one of the original soups, but Soulja Boy gets a hold of it and gives it to his son Homelander. Homelander injects the V1 and becomes immune to the virus, or as the show likes to say, immortal. Homelander, now emboldened to hunt the Boys down, kills Frenchie, but not before Frenchie replicates an old Soviet experiment to give Kimiko the ability to rob soups of their powers. After Homelander kills the president, he prepares the world to accept him as their new god or die in defiance. Which brings us to the finale. Butcher and his team break into the White House where they find Homelander in the Oval Office in the middle of a live broadcast announcing his godhood. With the cameras rolling, Butcher takes on the immortal Homelander with Ryan flying in to help. Homelander fights them off, but Kimiko summons the strength to deliver her depowering blast, leaving Butcher, Ryan, and Homelander nothing more than blood and bone. Butcher, now on equal footing and having spent a lifetime fighting, easily defeats Homelander. Here, at the end, Homelander remains defiant and true to his vision and his character. Just kidding. Well, I'll just show you.
Stop! I'll fucking suck your dick, please! I'll do anything. You can't fucking do this! You can't fucking do this! You want me to eat shit? I'll eat your fucking shit. I'll eat your fucking shit. I like you, man.
Homelander is reduced to a sniveling coward who will do anything to survive. Butcher cracks his head open like a crate of moonshine, ending his long pursuit of revenge. From there, Butcher turns on a dime and decides to unleash the virus on the remaining soups anyway, but Huey tracks him down and kills him. A storyline that deserved at least 2 episodes to develop on its own, reduced to 5 minutes. From there, everyone else lives happily ever after in a surprisingly cheery ending, giving the overall tone of the show and how things play out in the comics. The end. Now, before we get back to all of the problems with this finale, I think it's important to talk about some of the major differences between the comics and the show, if nothing more than to highlight how weak this finale really was. To start off with a big one, the entire setup of The Boys show adaptation was built off a massive deviation from the comics. In them, Homelander never committed the horrific crimes against Butcher's wife. It was actually Black Noir, who was a secret Homelander clone that Vought kept in their back pocket to control Homelander if he went off the rails. In the comics, Homelander loses his mind, trying to remember committing these crimes he was seemingly photographed doing, leaving him something more of a victim of Black Noir's mindfuckery, though Homelander is still unrepentantly evil. In the final showdown in the Oval Office, Black Noir reveals this twist, and then kills a fully empowered, defiant to the end Homelander himself, before Butcher kills Noir. And Homelander has an army of soups at his back at the White House, not like in the show where they had no backup or even Secret Service anywhere in sight, save for Oh Father. Which was a big mistake, because putting an army of soups under Homelander's control would have given this final showdown the epic scale the show had telegraphed for so long. There's no V1, there's no immortality, there's no Kimiko blasting everyone back to being human. Largely because in the comics, Butcher kills Kimiko, as he does Mother's Milk and Frenchie. The show opted to have Homelander kill Frenchie, further cementing him as a terrible villain, which makes the hilarious rug pull on Homelander's character at the end even more laughable. And having Butcher take out Frenchie would have made his sudden, impulsive turn at the end more palatable. The show was a flawed adaptation from the start, but they still could have landed this plane in a satisfying manner. Instead, they made almost every single wrong choice they could, leading to this fireball they left on the tarmac. Now, the biggest problem the creators made for themselves was the degree to which they hyped up this final showdown. We all knew one deciding duel awaited us at the show's end, built up from the first episodes of the series and driving the story through 5 whole seasons. Everyone knew what was coming, with every meeting between Butcher and Homelander that ended in a stalemate prior to the finale only building the hype, the tension, and their hatred for one another. And a 5-minute fistfight, which was one of their weaker fights by the way, was never going to scratch the itch they'd spent 7 years giving us. And to make matters worse, they couldn't even keep their big bad villain strong and threatening to the end. Homelander was left begging for cock, and pathetically pleading with Butcher to feed him warm shit. Just imagine for a second if the creators of some of the other iconic villains in movie and TV history did this. Do you think the Joker would slap on some knee pads and beg for a half pint of Batman's throat gravy? Can you see Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine trying to hoover down Luke's tube steak? In what world would Gustavo Fring plead with Walter White to cook up a steamy log and plop it into his mouth? Any self-respecting villain worthy of their own story would remain defiant to the end, staying true to their beliefs and vision to their last breath. But the creators' politics just couldn't let them see their character through to the end. You see, Homelander is not just Homelander. He's the writer's stand-in for somebody. I can't quite put my finger on who. Someone who sits in the Oval Office and has an army of red-hatted supporters behind him. I don't know. And it was all caught on Vought's live broadcast, for you see, the creator's real goal at the end wasn't to tell this villain story in a coherent manner. What they really wanted to do with their finale was enact a public humiliation ritual for Donald J. Homelander. They couldn't even bear to leave their stand-in for Elon Musk alive, their beliefs are so rabid. The creators' obsession with infusing their politics into the boys ruined Season 4, and in the end, it utterly ruined a character that Anthony Starr so masterfully portrayed. But Homelander wasn't the only character this finale butchered. Pun intended. Butcher's sudden, impulsive turn back to genocide because Ryan left him and his dog died was treated like an afterthought. The comics portrayed this as Butcher's calculated plan all along, with his commitment shown through him killing the rest of the boys, save Huey. But in the show, Butcher, the bringer of violence, couldn't handle his elderly dog dying peacefully and immediately hopped back on the genocide train. An arc that lasted all of 5 minutes. I can think of more than a few filler episodes that could have been cut from this final season to give this storyline, the story's true ending, the time it deserved. Speaking of episodes that could have been cut, let's talk about that hunt for V1 they spent 3 episodes on. What a nothing burger! Homelander shooting the V1 into his bloodstream was supposed to feel like an event that heralded the apocalypse. But the boys found the solution to his new immortality in all of 1 episode. And after all of that, this better, faster, stronger Homelander couldn't even fight off Butcher and Ryan, characters he's easily dealt with before the V1, and easily escaped from when necessary. Now I can see an argument that the V1 only makes Homelander immune to the virus the boys cooked up, and it doesn't affect his strength, but that's not how the creators treated it. They constantly used the word immortal, and when Homelander first got the V1, he had an uncontrollable power surge. So there's no reason why we weren't supposed to believe Homelander was now significantly more powerful. But he wasn't. If anything, he looked weaker than he ever had, and even weaker than he was earlier in the same damn episode. And boy, was that kind of inconsistency a problem in this final season. Pre-V1 Homelander lasered Kimiko in half just 7 episodes ago. But at the end, after becoming immortal, Homelander's laser blast just knocked her back a little bit. He can choke out another V1 juiced soup in Soldier Boy, but a teenager and Butcher are too much for him. Even Bombsight whooped Butcher's ass 2 episodes ago. Homelander can see through walls, except when he just chooses not to.
This makes no sense. This makes no sense. This makes no sense.
Soldier Boy can't catch up to Frenchie on foot. Huey and MM can hold their own against Kimiko. All this inconsistency in power levels in a show where the power dynamics between characters was the entire show. And lastly, the scale of the final showdown was not what it was built up as. Not only does it not match the expectations 5 seasons of the show laid out for people, but the boys and Amazon's official marketing dug themselves an even deeper hole. Before the season, they put out this image of Homelander floating in space, watching the world burn. Not on his knees, begging Butcher to demolish his chin with his wrecking balls. Another image they put out showed Butcher walking up to the White House alone, where Homelander was backed by dozens of other soups.
So that was a fucking lie.
And other promotional photos just showed a level of destruction that the finale didn't even come close to reaching. All of this potential was traded in for a horribly edited, spastic 5-minute fistfight in one room. So the boys and Amazon deserve all the backlash they're getting for this finale that was absolutely pathetic. I guess it's a good thing this show ended when it did, or Mother's Milk's actor would have Ozempic'd himself into oblivion before it was over. But in all seriousness, the boys spent the past few seasons limping and stumbling toward the finish line. And while they made it to the end, the pitiful manner in which they did will be the boys' lasting legacy, no matter how they started the race. Did you see this shit show through to its pathetic, whimpering end? If not, when did you see the writing on the wall for the boys? Let us know in the comments. And remember to leave a like on the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for staying consistent to the end with me today, unlike the boys, and I'll catch you on the next one.